My grandfather found me sleeping in my car and asked, "The house I gave you, didn't you like it?" My mother replied, "We took it from her and gave it to her sister. She has a family and deserves it more." My grandfather took out his phone and started screaming. "My name is Caroline. I'm 23 years old, and I've always been the quiet one, the peacekeeper. The one who backs down from confrontations and swallows her words rather than cause a scene. I thought that made me mature, adaptable, easy to love. What I didn't realize was that it made me easy to use. I have an older sister, Vanessa, who's 29. From the moment I could form memories, everything in our household revolved around her. My parents, Robert and Linda, both in their early 50s, treated Vanessa like the sun itself. Her needs came first. Her problems became family emergencies. Her happiness was the only happiness that mattered. Vanessa got married at 23 to a guy named Derek. I never trusted him. There was something about the way he talked big but did little that rubbed me wrong. Neither of them held steady jobs. Derek picked up construction gigs when he felt like it, nothing consistent. Vanessa didn't work at all. She'd wave away any suggestion with, "I have to focus on the kids." She had 2 children, Sophia, who's 6, and Oliver, who's 4. How did Vanessa and Derek survive? Simple. They lived off my grandfather. My grandfather, William, is 76 years old. He's been a widower for 12 years now, and before he retired he built a successful chain of hardware stores across Pennsylvania. He's tough as nails. The kind of man who believes in hard work and personal responsibility. He doesn't tolerate excuses or laziness. And for some reason I never quite understood, I was always his favorite, not because I asked to be. According to him, it was because I had common sense and a humble heart. I worked full-time as an office coordinator at a small logistics company, making about $2,000 a month. It wasn't much, but it covered my bills. I helped my parents with rent when I could, and I even slipped Vanessa grocery money now and then when the kids needed something. Meanwhile, my parents constantly begged my grandfather for more money for Vanessa. "She's raising 2 kids, Dad," my mother would say. "Derek's looking for work, but it's hard out there. They need help." My grandfather sent them $2,800 every single month, more than I made working 40 hours a week, but it was never enough. There was always an emergency. Always something the kids needed urgently. New shoes, doctor visits, birthday parties. 3 months ago, I turned 23. I didn't expect much. Birthdays in my family were only a big deal if your name was Vanessa. But that morning, my phone rang. It was my grandfather. "Caroline, sweetheart, I'm driving up to see you today," he said, his voice buzzing with excitement. "I've got a surprise." He arrived that afternoon in his silver Buick, pulling up to the cramped 2-bedroom apartment where 7 of us lived. My parents, Vanessa, Derek, Sophia, Oliver, and me. Yes, 7 people stuffed into 2 bedrooms. It was chaos every single day. My grandfather walked in carrying a large manila envelope, his face glowing. "Happy birthday, Caroline," he said, pulling me into a tight hug. "Come on, everyone sit down." We gathered in the tiny living room. Vanessa sat on the couch with her arms crossed, already looking annoyed. My parents exchanged glances. Derek leaned against the wall, barely paying attention. My grandfather handed me the envelope. "Open it, sweetheart." My hands shook as I tore it open. Inside were keys and a thick stack of legal documents. My eyes scanned the first page, but I couldn't make sense of it. "It's a house," my grandfather said, his voice cracking with emotion. "A beautiful 3-bedroom house in the Maplewood neighborhood. Fully furnished, modern appliances, everything ready for you to move in. It's in your name. Caroline, it's yours." I froze. My breath caught in my throat. "Grandpa, I can't accept this," I stammered. "Yes, you can," he said firmly, taking both my hands in his. "You deserve it. You're a good person, Caroline. Respectful, hard-working. You never ask me for anything. You never complain. You give and give without expecting anything back. This house is my way of telling you that I see all of that, and I'm proud of you." Tears poured down my face. I hugged him so hard I thought I might break him. It was the most incredible moment of my life. I glanced around the room. My parents looked uncomfortable. their expressions tight. Vanessa's face twisted with something ugly, envy, resentment. Derek scowled. But I didn't care. For once, something good was happening to me. The next day, my grandfather drove me to see the house before heading back home. It was perfect. 3 bedrooms, 2 full bathrooms, a gorgeous kitchen with stainless steel appliances, a spacious living room with hardwood floors, and a cozy backyard with a little patio. Everything was tastefully furnished, ready to move into. "It's all yours, Caroline," my grandfather said, hugging me one last time. "Take care of it. Enjoy it. You've earned this." I drove back to the apartment that afternoon feeling like I was floating. For the first time in my life, I had something that was truly mine, a space of my own, a future that looked brighter, but that feeling evaporated the second I walked through the door. My mother was waiting for me in the living room, arms folded, her face set in a hard expression. My father sat beside her. Vanessa and Derek were there too. "Caroline, we need to talk," my mother said. "Sure," I said, still smiling. "What's up?" "It's about the house," my father began. "We've been thinking, and that house is way too big for you." My smile faltered. "What do you mean?" "You're single," my mother continued. "Well, I thought, maybe for the future, or—" "Your sister, on the other hand," my father interrupted, "has 2 children. Sophia and Oliver need space to grow, to play. They're cramped here, Caroline. It's not fair." "Not fair?" Vanessa chimed in, her voice whiny and sharp. "That you get this huge house all to yourself while my kids are stuck in this tiny dump?" "But Grandpa gave it to me," I said, panic creeping into my chest. "It's mine." "We're family," my mother said firmly. "Family shares. Family helps each other." "I do help," I protested weakly. "I give you money when I can." "This is different," my father said. "This is about giving your niece and nephew a real home. Don't you want them to be happy?" And that's how it started. Every single day for the next 3 weeks, they wore me down. Constant comments about how selfish I was. How Vanessa deserved the house more because she had a family. How I was young and single and didn't really need it. "Think of the children, Caroline," my mother said every morning over coffee. "Don't be so selfish," my father muttered every night before bed. "You're my sister," Vanessa told me with crocodile tears streaming down her face. "Don't we matter to you?" I hate conflict. I hate fighting. And this was relentless, suffocating, crushing. After 3 weeks, I broke. "Fine," I whispered, feeling like my heart was being torn out of my chest. "Vanessa can have the house." The celebration was immediate. Vanessa hugged me for the first time in years. My parents patted my back, saying I was a good sister. Derek actually smiled at me. Within days, Vanessa, Derek, the kids, and my parents all moved into the house my grandfather had given me. "You can stay here in the apartment," my mother said casually. "It's already paid for. You'll be comfortable." I stayed in that empty apartment the first night, feeling completely hollow. At least I still had a roof over my head. 2 days later, I came home from work, and my key didn't fit. I tried again. Nothing. The lock had been changed. I knocked. No answer. I called my mother. Straight to voicemail. My father didn't pick up. Vanessa had blocked my number. Finally, a neighbor told me she'd seen the landlord that morning. I called him. "Yeah, Robert and Linda told me they didn't need the place anymore," he said. "They ended the lease. I've already rented it to someone else." I stood on the sidewalk with my work bag, staring at the door of the apartment I'd lived in my entire life. I had nowhere to go. I didn't have money for a hotel. I definitely didn't have enough for a deposit on a new apartment. My savings were pathetic. The only thing I had was my car, a 15-year-old Honda Civic that somehow still ran. That first night, I parked in front of the house my grandfather gave me, the house where my family now lived. I reclined the driver's seat as far as it would go, pulled my jacket over myself like a blanket, and tried to sleep. It was the longest night of my life. The next morning, I cleaned up as best I could in a gas station bathroom before heading to work. No one at my job knew what was happening. I was too ashamed to tell them. The following nights were the same. I parked in front of my house, and watched the lights glow warm inside while I shivered in my car. I saw shadows moving past the windows, heard faint laughter, saw the kids playing in the yard. Meanwhile, I was washing my hair in public restrooms and eating dollar menu burgers to save money. Weeks turned into months. 5 months of sleeping in that car. 5 months of back pain, cold nights, and crushing humiliation. 5 months of parking outside the house that should have been mine, watching my family live the life I was supposed to have. I kept working, kept showing up, kept pretending everything was fine. What else could I do? Then one Saturday morning at 6 a.m., I heard a sharp tap on my window. I jolted awake, disoriented and groggy. The windows were fogged up from my breath. I wiped the glass with my sleeve, and my heart stopped. My grandfather stood outside my car, staring at me with an expression of complete shock. I opened the door and stumbled out. My hair tangled, my clothes wrinkled, my face puffy from sleeping awkwardly. My grandfather's eyes swept over me, then moved to the back seat. The blankets, the makeshift pillow, the clothes hanging from the hooks, the fast food bags on the floor. His face shifted from confusion to horror. "Caroline," he whispered, his voice shaking. What are you doing? Why are you sleeping in your car?" I couldn't speak. Tears just started pouring down my face. "And the house I gave you?" he asked, his voice breaking. "Didn't you like it? What happened?" At that moment, the front door of the house opened. "Dad!" she exclaimed with forced cheerfulness. "What a surprise! We didn't know you were coming." My grandfather didn't even look at her. He kept his eyes locked on me, waiting for an answer. "Grandpa, my voice cracked. "What happened to the house?" he demanded, louder now, his gaze shifting between the house and me. My mother approached nervously. "Dad, let me explain." "Explain," my grandfather said, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Explain to me why my granddaughter is sleeping in her car in front of the house I gave her." My mother swallowed hard. "Well, we took it from her and gave it to Vanessa. Vanessa has a family. Dad, she deserves it more. Caroline is young, she's single, she doesn't need such a big house. She's a failure who hasn't even started a family yet. Vanessa needed it." The silence that followed was deafening. "What did you just say?" my grandfather whispered. My mother's words came tumbling out now, faster and more desperate. "Vanessa has a husband and 2 kids, Dad. Caroline is all alone. Why would she need 3 bedrooms? It just made sense to..." My grandfather's face went through a series of transformations: disbelief, shock, and then pure rage. Without saying another word, he pulled out his phone and dialed. "What are you doing?" my mother asked nervously. "Yes, I need a police unit at this address immediately," my grandfather said into the phone, his voice cold and steady. "There's an illegal occupation of a property that's registered in my name and my granddaughter's name. Please send someone right away." "You can't do this," my mother shrieked. "They live here. The children live here." "Children shouldn't be living in a stolen house," my grandfather roared, louder than I'd ever heard him. He marched toward the front door. My mother tried to block him, but he pushed past her like she was made of paper. "Everyone out!" he bellowed, stepping inside. "Get out of this house right now!" I heard chaos erupt inside. Vanessa screaming. Derek stammering excuses. My father trying to calm everyone down. The kids crying, frightened by the shouting. "This house belongs to Caroline," my grandfather yelled. "I paid for it with my own money. I gave it to her. Nobody had the right to take it from her." "Hey!" Vanessa stumbled out onto the porch, sobbing hysterically. "My children need this house." "Your children need parents who work," my grandfather shot back. "Not a stolen house." "Dad, we can fix this," my father tried, his voice shaking. "It was just a misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding?" My grandfather whirled on him, eyes blazing. "Leaving your daughter to sleep in her car on the street is a misunderstanding?" "She agreed to give us the house," Vanessa said defensively. "Did you pressure her?" my grandfather demanded. "Did you manipulate her? Did you take advantage of her kindness?" No one answered. The guilt was written all over their faces. 10 minutes later, 2 police cars pulled up. My grandfather showed the officers the original deed, clearly showing the property was registered in his name and mine. They reviewed the documents, spoke with my family, and finally delivered the verdict. "Ladies and gentlemen, you need to vacate this property," the officer said. You have 1 hour to gather your essential belongings. We have nowhere to go, my mother cried. That's not a legal issue, ma'am, the officer replied. 1 hour. Start packing. The next hour was absolute chaos. Vanessa cried while throwing clothes into suitcases. Derek cursed under his breath. My parents pleaded with my grandfather to reconsider. My grandfather stood in the yard with his arm around my shoulders, unmoved. This should have been yours from the beginning, he whispered to me. And it will be now. Exactly 1 hour later, my family stood on the sidewalk, surrounded by suitcases and garbage bags. Vanessa was hysterical. My parents looked broken. Dad, please, my mother begged one last time. At least don't take away the monthly support. The children need to eat. My grandfather looked at her with an expression I'd never seen before. Pure, cold disappointment. From this day forward, he said, his voice like ice, you don't get a single cent from me. The monthly checks are done, the loans are done, everything is over. But the children, Vanessa wailed. The children are the responsibility of their parents, my grandfather said without sympathy. You two, he pointed at Vanessa and Derek, get jobs. Work like Caroline has worked her whole life. Humble yourselves the way you humiliated her. Dad, please, my father started. And you, my grandfather said, turning to my parents with disgust in his eyes. You're a disgrace. You favored one daughter so much that you destroyed the other. You let them steal your own daughter's house and left her on the street. You don't deserve to call yourselves parents. We're your family, my mother said desperately. Caroline is my family, my grandfather said, pulling me closer. You're just toxic people who happen to share my blood. I don't want to see you again. Ever. Stay away from this house. Stay away from Caroline. Don't contact me. It's over. He left them standing there on the sidewalk with their belongings and their shame. We walked into the house together. My house. Finally, truly mine. I'm sorry, I said to my grandfather through tears. I was so weak. I should have stood up for myself. You weren't weak, he said, his own eyes wet. You were kind, and they abused your kindness. But that's over now. This house is yours and only yours, and I'll make damn sure no one ever takes it from you again. The following weeks were surreal. I moved properly into the house. I slept in a real bed for the first time in 5 months. I took long, hot showers in a real bathroom. I cooked meals in a fully equipped kitchen. It felt like a dream. My family tried to contact me constantly. Phone calls, text messages, emails. Caroline, please. The children are hungry. Caroline, we can't afford rent. Caroline, your sister is suffering. 3 weeks after they were evicted, my mother sent me a long, desperate message. Caroline, we made a terrible mistake, but we're your family. You can't just abandon us like this. Please help us. For the first time in my life, I replied firmly, no. For years, I helped you. I gave you my money. I gave you my understanding. And when I finally had something that was mine, you took it without a second thought and left me on the street. Now you figure it out like I always had to. I blocked all their numbers, every single one. My grandfather visited a week later to check on me. How are you feeling? He asked, as we sat drinking coffee in my living room. Free, I answered honestly. For the first time in my life, I feel free. He smiled, tears glistening in his eyes. That's exactly what I wanted to hear, sweetheart. Over the next 2 months, I started to hear things through mutual acquaintances. My family's situation had deteriorated rapidly. Without my grandfather's monthly checks, Vanessa and Derek were forced to find work. Vanessa got a job as a cashier at a grocery store. Derek started working construction full-time. They moved into a small 2-bedroom apartment in a rough neighborhood, the kind of place they used to turn their noses up at. My parents downsized to a cramped 1-bedroom apartment and both picked up part-time jobs to make ends meet. I felt a small pang of guilt when I heard these things. But then I'd remember those 5 months, the cold nights in my car, the shame of washing my hair in gas station sinks, the way they'd enjoyed my house while I suffered outside. The guilt never lasted long. My grandfather called me one evening, his voice serious. Caroline, I need to tell you something. Your mother showed up at my house today. My stomach tightened. She begged me to forgive them, said they've learned their lesson, asked me to help them financially again. Good, I said quietly. She said you've become cold, heartless. I laughed bitterly. That's funny. Coming from them. 8. I told her the truth. My grandfather continued. I said you haven't changed at all. You're still the same kind, generous person you've always been. You've just finally learned that kindness doesn't mean letting people destroy you. Tears pricked my eyes. Thank you, Grandpa. I'm proud of you, sweetheart. You're stronger than you know. Today, 6 months after my grandfather found me sleeping in my car, I'm living a life I never imagined possible. I've decorated my house exactly how I want it. The third bedroom is now a home office. I've painted the walls, hung artwork, filled the space with plants and books and things that make me happy. I've invited friends over for dinner parties, started hosting game nights, created a life that's actually mine. I even got a promotion at work. Turns out when you're not exhausted from sleeping in your car and emotionally drained from toxic family dynamics, you can actually focus and excel. Do I miss my family? Sometimes. There are moments when I see Sophia and Oliver's old toys in the garage and feel a pang of sadness. Moments when I remember holidays and birthdays from years ago, when things felt simpler. But then I remember the truth. Things were never actually simple. I was just easier to control back then. I learned something crucial through all of this. Kindness without boundaries isn't a virtue. It's a vulnerability that people will exploit. I learned that being quiet doesn't make you weak, but letting people walk all over you does. I learned that family isn't determined by blood. It's determined by respect, love, and mutual support. My grandfather proved that. My parents and sister proved the opposite. Last week, I ran into Vanessa at the grocery store where she works. She was at the register, looking tired and worn down. Our eyes met across the store. For a moment, I thought about walking over, about asking how she was doing. But then I remembered my car, the cold, the shame, the way they took everything from me without a second thought. I turned and walked down another aisle. I'm not cold. I'm not heartless. I'm just finally protecting myself. My grandfather visits every other weekend now. We cook dinner together, watch old movies, and talk for hours. He tells me stories about building his business, about my grandmother, about the life lessons he's learned. You know what I'm most proud of? He said last Sunday as we sat on my back patio watching the sunset. What's that? That you didn't become bitter. You didn't let what they did turn you into an angry, resentful person. You just became free. He was right. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not even sad. I'm just free. Free to live in my house. Free to make my own decisions. Free to say no without guilt. Free to build a life on my own terms. This house, with its 3 bedrooms and beautiful kitchen and cozy backyard, isn't just a building. It's a symbol. A reminder that I'm worth more than I was treated. That I deserve space and comfort and respect. Every night when I lock my front door, I feel grateful. Not just for the house, but for the lesson. I'm free. And that freedom is priceless. Some people might say I should forgive my family. That I should help them now that I'm stable. That blood is thicker than water. But those people didn't sleep in their car for 5 months while their family lived in luxury. Those people didn't have everything taken from them by the people who were supposed to protect them. I'm not cruel. I'm just done being used. And I'm finally, truly, completely free.